Strengthen the asset life cycle. Well, joining us to speak about that today is Colin Beaney, Global Industry Director at IFS. Colin, welcome.
Hi, Russell.
Colin, I'd like to start out by you giving us a sort of an introduction to IFS, what it is that it does. But in doing so, talk to us about products, talk to us about strategy at the company. How would you characterize that?
Okay, Russell. Well, IFS, we're a global enterprise software vendor. We've got a very clear industry focus around those asset lifecycle industries. We've been going sort of 30 years. Formed in Sweden by some guys that were working in a nuclear power station, and our first product was a maintenance management software package. So our heritage and our strengths are all within those asset lifecycle industries, and that's fundamentally influenced our strategic product direction. I mean, there's a huge number of industries that are very dependent upon assets. If you take, for example, oil and gas, energy and utilities, service management, pulp and paper, all of these have got huge numbers of assets. And it's very important how those assets are run in and optimized. And that's been our complete product focus for the whole of the 30 years. You know, that's where our money goes into our development, and that's the areas that we play very strongly in.
I'm glad you mentioned energy and utilities, because at the top of the interview I introduced you as Global Industry Director, but your brief in that capacity is energy and utilities. So turning to those verticals, discuss for us or describe for us a major challenge and how IFS might help.
Okay, well, Russell, I mean, that industry is going through huge change at the moment. If I look at sort of day-to-day challenges, then clearly it's around sort of risk, reliability of assets, human capital optimization, resource optimization, those types of things. But from a very critical major challenge that they've got is all around project cost, project life cycle, because that's where the huge amounts of money are being invested in these industries for infrastructure renewal, expansion, extension. And what you need is an application that can manage that whole project life cycle. You know, one version of the truth. Everybody can see where the cost is coming, manage the change, manage the progress, all within the one application.
You know, we're speaking to each other at the annual forum that's put on by ARC. And of course, this year, the Internet of Things is a big deal here, major theme. Question for you then is IoT, how does it map into IFS strategy, or does it?
Well, I mean, we are built on a very modern technology that allows us to interoperate with applications running plant SCADA systems, DCS systems on the assets. And we've been heavily working in this area for a number of years. I'll give you an exact example around some supply chain information that we've got. We've got a project ongoing at the moment with Emirates. And I think we can all learn from other industries. The aviation industry has really embraced sort of getting real-time data back from their assets and then reacting on those assets. So within Emirates, the asset is sending back real-time information, and they are then able to plan their machine shop MRO activities around the real-time performance of those assets and ensure that the spares that they need are all in the right place when the assets come in to be refurbished.
Let me ask you a further question about IoT. As I just mentioned, the Internet of Things is a major topic here at the forum. Is this something that, in your view, is overstated, or is this something that is happening now, going to be bigger tomorrow, et cetera? What's your view?
No, I think, Russell, it's going to be much bigger tomorrow. I think it's really only just being adopted by industry. Traditionally, energy and utilities is a a relatively old-fashioned industry. You know, it has to comply to many legislation. It's very heavily regulated, of course. And as a consequence of that, you know, it's not going to immediately jump on new ideas. But I can absolutely see that you know, as we move forward, assets will be providing real-time information back, and systems like IFS will be used to manage and make decisions based on that real-time information. I think that's the key, decision-making based on, you know, up-to-date real-time information.
I'm glad you mentioned your area. I'm glad you mentioned energy and utilities once again, because I wanted to ask you another thing about that. But final question then has to do with those areas which used to be, I think it's fair to say, quite stable, but now are undoubtedly quite dynamic. Question then is this: how can IFS help companies adapt in such a fluid environment?
Well, I mean, I mentioned, Russell, that we were formed 30 years ago from a maintenance management system. That customer, our first customer, was a nuclear power station. They're now into decommissioning. So you can see that their use of our application has evolved from being operational and being used for day-to-day maintenance and day-to-day infrastructure renewal and refurbishment, and now it's being used for decommissioning the plant. And I think it's important that the business application can flex and be agile together with the organisation as they evolve and as they change business. We've got further examples of customers that have been traditionally in sort of power generation, hydropower generation. They're now moving into renewables, and they're now moving offshore. They're now moving into different countries and different regions, and we, as an application, have had to move to adjust with those companies.
Difficult to think of areas more dynamic than the ones that you are personally involved in there at IFS. Colin, I know you're busy here, but you found time to meet with us. I want to thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Russell.
Well, that's Colin Beaney, IFS, and speaking with us today about strength in the asset life cycle. Thank you for watching.